Information Minister from Geneva says nobody should imagine that what's going on in Homs has anything to do with what has been discussed in Geneva conference. Syrian Arab Army units eliminate dozens of terrorists, including Jordanians and Kuwaitis nationalities in Daraa and Homs, destroying their weapons and ammunition. Under the title, Muslims between Westernization and Extremism and Western Hegemony and Takfiri thought, the 10th Religious Scholars Forum starts in Damascus. Good afternoon, the Syrian Arab. The Syrian Arab Republic delegation participating in Geneva2 conference presented a paper with the main principles which stressed on respecting Syria's sovereignty, the restoration of the usurped territories, and the rejection of all forms of extremism and Takfiri mentality. However, the coalition delegation of the so-called opposition rejected the paper. The paper also called on all countries to stop supplying weapons, training or harboring terrorists or inciting terrorist acts, as the coalition delegation of the so-called opposition rejected this too. The paper included the rejection of any form of interference or foreign dictates and allowing the Syrians to decide the future of their country with democratic means. This item has been also rejected by the coalition delegation of the so-called opposition. The coalition delegation rejected what came in the paper from not giving up on any part of Syria. The principles paper stressed that the Syrians has the right to choose their own political system away from any foreign dictates. The paper includes that the Syrian Arab Republic is a democratic state based on the principles of law and judicial independency, protect the national unity and the cultural diversity, as the coalition of the so-called opposition also rejected that. Also, the coalition rejected the paper that includes preserving the governmental institutions, the infrastructure and the protection of public and private properties. Sources close to the Syrian Arab Republic delegation in Geneva said that the delegation was and still open to discuss all points, as it gives these principles points that cannot be rejected by any Syrian in order to find common basis. But the coalition of the opposition rejected all these proposals. Minister of Information Omran al-Zabi and Deputy Head of the Syrian Arab Republic delegation to Geneva2 conference, Omran al-Zabi, asserted that the Syrians are all equal in front of the government, which treats them according to one standard, pointing out that the talk about Homs is a humanitarian issue that cannot be invested to achieve political gains. As Zabi pointed out that the response plan is not implemented only today, it has been going on for a long time, and it has been implemented literally and distributed in a systematic way across different parts of the Syrian Arab Republic.
المنطقة المحاصرة وستقوم الدولة بكل وقت بتقديم كل الخدمات لهم، وهذه ليست المرة الأولى ولن تكون المرة الأخيرة.
Vice Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs and the expatriates, member of the Syrian official delegation to Geneva2 conference, Dr. Faisal al-Maqdad, asserted that the first issue which should be discussed in the conference is terrorism.
نقول بأن أول بند يجب أن يناقش.
Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Expatriates Minister, member of the Syrian official delegation to Geneva2 conference, Dr. Faisal al-Maqdad, asserted that the first issue which should be discussed in the conference is terrorism, because it is not possible to discuss Syria's current situation and the future while the machine of killing continues. The Deputy Foreign Minister said that the economic sanctions imposed on Syria are in contrast to the international law. They help only in killing and besieging the Syrian people, pointing out that this issue hasn't been discussed because it is well known how the countries which impose those sanctions do meet with the opposition and give them directives. In a press conference in Geneva, al-Maqdad pointed out that the Syrian official delegation is not afraid of discussing any topic, emphasizing that dialogue is the right way to get Syria out of the current crisis. ministers, stressing that the delegation came to the conference to resolve the crisis, to put an end to terrorism and the war on Syria, and also to stop the foreign interference. Al-Miqdad said that the Syrian official delegation will exert every possible effort to make the talks a success and focusing only on the main issues that concern the Syrian people.
I think opposition should be always on the tables to discuss and debate issues. And this is open. Now we are in this process. Preconditions are not accepted at all. Geneva precludes such preconditions. Thirdly, it is only the right of the Syrian people to say to any one of its leaders, it is time to stay or it's time to step out. So this is a right for the Syrian people, and the Syrian people will never compromise when it comes to this issue. This is, again, a red light. If some people think we are coming here to give them the keys of Damascus, they are wrong. We have to tell them they have to come with their set of mind, with their dreams outside the room, and where we sit and discuss concrete issues on the future of Syria. This is what we are coming to discuss. All the terrorists of the world who came into Syria came through Turkey. Or, if I don't want to exaggerate, the majority of them came through Turkey. And I think Erdogan and Ahmed Davutoglu are personally responsible for each drop of blood in Syria. And they must be accountable before the Turkish people. The Syrian people and the Turkish people are brothers and sisters. And it was President Bashar al-Assad who initiated this great relationship with the Turkish people. It seems to me some people in the government of Turkey do not want such a relationship between the two neighboring countries and between the two sisterly peoples. However, I think the responsibility for Erdogan and for Ahmed Davutoglu is the responsibility of the Turkish people. We leave this for the Turkish people, and by the way, the Turkish people has been always in the forefront of condemning these policies by the Turkish government, which has allowed these gangs from all over the world to come from all Europe and other places to kill Syrians. Thank you to the Turkish people.
Head of the International Relations Committee at the Russian Duma, Alexei Poshkov, said that the foreign countries and parties which supported, financed and armed the terrorists in Syria are responsible for the spread of terrorism in that country. For his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that it is not possible to hold any dialogue with the terrorists in Syria, adding that Russia, out of principle, rejects to negotiate with terrorists and recommends the others not to hold negotiations with them. Russian Foreign Minister added that he saw no place in the negotiation process for such organization as the Nusra Front, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, and the other branches of Al-Qaeda. Iran renewed its support to a political solution for the crisis in Syria, calling to stop the support provided by the United States and its tools to extremist terrorist groups in the region. The Iranian stance came by Iran's foreign ministry under Assistant Murtada Sarmadi, who asserted that nobody can take decisions on behalf of the Syrian people, who alone have the right to decide on the future of his country. In turn, Assistant Foreign Minister Majid Takht Rawanji asserted the need to follow the political track to resolve the crisis in Syria and to stop the extremist groups operating there. For his part, head of Iran's National Security and Foreign Affairs Committee, Ala ad-Din Projordi, during his meeting with French former Foreign Minister Hervé Deschariers, criticized the U.S. support to the terrorist groups in Syria, warning that the failure to resolve the crisis in Syria would destabilize the region. Prime Minister Wael Halaqi affirmed the importance of national reconciliation as a safe way and genuine exit selected by the Syrians to overcome the negative repercussions of the global war in Syrian society.
Prime Minister Al-Halaqi, in a meeting with the chairman of Latakia Secretariat Council for National Firms, Hussam al-Din Khalasi, pointed out to the important role of the civil society activities to mobilize energies and confront the Wahhabi, Takfiri criminal mentality and preserve the Syrian national identity. He talked about the efforts exerted by the ministerial committee tasked with implementing the political program to resolve the crisis in Syria, and the committee's meetings with different spectrums of the Syrian society who had consensus that dialogue is the only way out of the crisis. Prime Minister Halaqi added that Geneva2 conference has to lead for an international consensus on combating terrorism. In a relevant context, Regional Secretary of Al-Ba'ath Arab Socialist Party Hilal al-Hilal met the National Reconciliation Committee at the People's Assembly, pointing out to the important role of MPs in this file. He called for overcoming all obstacles which hinder the work of the Reconciliation Committee to achieve its goal in the best way.
Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Antioch and the whole East, John X Yazigi, highlighted the importance of holding an honest and conditional Syrian dialogue as to put an end to the suffering of the Syrian people and preserve security and stability in Syria and Lebanon.
During his visit to the Patriarchate of Moscow and all Russia at the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, Patriarch Yazigi hoped that peace and stability will be restored to Syria and Lebanon. He also expressed gratitude for Russian President Vladimir Putin, Kirill of Moscow and all Russia, and the Russian people for what they have provided at the interests of peoples and peace, stressing that the flow of humanitarian aid from Russia is an honest proof on the deep relations. Earlier, the Russian Orthodox Church held a joint prayer for peace in Syria, Russia and the world. Patriarch Kirill said that Syria, the homeland of saints, is suffering from bloodshed, expressing the solidarity of the Russian people with the Syrian people. In a related context, Yazigi and Kirill held a discussion in which they stressed that Russian Orthodox Church is working in international arenas as to explain the stances of Russia in solidarity with the Syrian people. Patriarch Yazigi is making a unique 5-day visit to Russia and is due to meet with many Russian officials, parliamentary and religious institutions and figures. Earlier in a statement at Beirut airport, Yazigi said that he is on his way to Russia to discuss the situation and developments in the region, particularly Syria, hoping that the Geneva2 conference would help reach a solution that alleviates the suffering of the Syrian people and would have positive impact on the region in general.
A number of Syrian expatriates, the Syrian American Forum in the United States of America, and Americans handed a letter to the White House demanding the American President Barack Obama to shoulder his responsibilities and help in making the International Conference on Syria Geneva2 a success, stopping the killing and destruction.
The letter said that with the start of the Geneva2 conference on Syria, the Syrian American Forum, which is an organization representing thousands of Americans from Syrian origins, wants to express its support to Geneva2 conference and to the American efforts to achieve peace in Syria. The forum is calling on the American Secretary of State, John Kerry, to focus his efforts on preserving a peaceful solution with the agreement and participation of all the Syrians, as the solution for the crisis should be Syrian. The letter clarified that the indication of chaos and terrorism were clear from the very beginning of the crisis in Syria, as the Syrian people noticed that fundamentalist and extremist directives and its growth, a matter that posed a threat to the secular fabric of the Syrian society, also came in the letter, while the armed terrorist groups fighting in Syria pose a threat to the national security of the United States. Some of the congressmen and the American administration still focus on what they call moderate armed terrorist groups, while they are terrorist members loyal to Al-Qaeda organization, and this support is just to end the Syrian government by force. The continuous support to these groups will lead to more killing and destruction. The forum members asked in the letter the United States to work on stopping the extremist infiltration to Syria, stopping the smuggling of weapons and other ways of support given to the armed terrorist groups. They also stressed on preserving any country or side from inflaming the current crisis in Syria.
In support of the Syrian Arab Republic delegation in Geneva, Syrians in the occupied Syrian Golan held several marches in different villages of the occupied Golan.
Syrians in the occupied Golan expressed their support to the Syrian official delegation in Geneva2 conference, holding a car march that toured many villages. They called for an end to financing and arming the terrorist groups which shed the blood of the Syrians, and for preserving the sovereignty of Syria and the independence of its national decision. Syrians in occupied Syrian Golan reaffirmed their support to the Syrian leadership, army and people in the fight against terrorism and in seeking security and stability in Syria.
Under the title The Muslims Between Westernization and Extremism, Western Hegemony and Takfiri Thought, the 10th Forum of Religious Scholars kicked off in Damascus Hotel in Damascus. Participants will tackle various points, among them Takfiri Thought between political and religious federalization, Minister of Awqaf, Endowment, Dr. Abdul Sattar Al-Sayyid, the Grand Mufti Dr. Ahmed Badruddin Hassoun, and other religious scholars will take part in the forum. In Yarmouk camp in Damascus, an armed group has managed to flee the camp and turn themselves into the competent authorities. Elements of the armed group said that the criminal terrorist groups inside the camp treated the besieged residents very badly. On another context, army units killed all members of an armed terrorist group that had attempted to infiltrate from Al-Qadam neighborhood to the neighboring safe areas in Damascus, seizing their weapons, including a sniper rifle, RPG launchers, and machine guns. Going to Homs countryside, where authorities seized a car loaded with weapons and ammunition near Al-Hamidiyya village junction to Al-Msherfe area in Homs countryside. The seized weapons included a number of machine guns, ammunition, and a base for a heavy machine gun. In Latakia countryside, a Syrian army unit destroyed a number of cars equipped with heavy machine guns, listening devices, and a rocket launcher, in addition to killing 19 terrorists affiliated to Jabhat al-Nusra in the area of Rabi'a. Among the dead terrorists were Osama and Mir of Jabhat al-Nusra, leaders in the area Khalid Zatar, and Jafar Zainab from Iraq, Ala al-Ma'az from the United Arab Emirates, and Kamal Fakhruddin from Lebanon. With this, we come to the end of our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest in business and finance and market news with Vani Konjian, but after a short break.